Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. It's great to thank you for joining us. Today, I've got a brilliant guest with us. It is Mr. Martin Hamer. So, Martin, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm all right, pal. Thanks for inviting us on.
No, absolute pleasure. So, it's been great seeing all the work you're doing behind the scenes, and obviously, you've got a really good background within strength and conditioning. I can't think of many other people really who have got so much involvement within S&C and athletic development at the moment. So, of course, the main aim of this podcast is to inspire and motivate athletes, coaches, and get them to understand exactly what athletic development is, and to also, hopefully, if we can help and inspire to motivate them and get them to implement some of our what we've done in our careers to level up even better. So, do you want to sort of start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, how you got into sport and what you're up to at this current day?
Yeah, of course, mate. Yeah, so basically pretty standard entry into it, as I'm sure a lot of people do as a teenager, coming through primary school, secondary school. I was always massively into my sports, predominantly rugby, being from Oldham originally. It was predominantly rugby league. So I've played a decent level. I actually left school and then I was at Sale for a little while. So that actually went from rugby union. And I've pretty much played ever since, up until the last 12 months, really. But as you know, going through it, meeting loads of different coaches, playing the game all over the country and in different countries. I just got really passionate about the coaching side of things as well. So once I left uni, I went to do my level 2 fitness instructing. I went to do my level 3 personal training. And then that's just kind of developed into a personal training career where I'm now a health and fitness tutor for various companies, teaching all fitness qualifications, including level 4 S&C. And also UKSCA accredited. So strength and conditioning is a huge passion of mine, which has led me to now being lead S&C for the academy at Bradford Bulls. That's a little bit about me.
Absolutely fantastic. So it's a common thing with rugby, isn't it? Where they go from league to union and union to league, isn't it? Really, have you noticed any differences apart from obviously the 15-a-side and 13-a-side in terms of their ethos and the way they approach the training sessions?
No, I wouldn't say so. I was, funnily enough, I was talking to someone about this the other day when we were at Bradford. I think people, obviously, they are different games. Certain different elements in terms of technique and tactical wise you have to think about, but I think people overcomplicate it as well in terms of the rugby league and union. They are both very dominant on both aerobic and anaerobic energy systems. The collision sports, we play with an egg-shaped ball, and it's a simple advantage of attack and defence. So I think people can overcomplicate the games.
Yeah, and I think this is the problem that a lot of people do with the training, isn't it? Because we look at why we do certain things. Like you look at football, you look at any team sport, and then you look at an individual sport such as your running or your tennis. And a lot of people will think, the training structure is completely different, which I guess to an extent it is. However, in the grand scheme of it, it's very similar, isn't it? We're quite across the platforms in terms of developing the athlete, because you still got the explosiveness, the reactions, the agility, change of direction, etc. What's your sort of thoughts in terms of the differences or how we should approach individual sports to team sports?
Yeah, so just touching on the rugby one again, if you really wanted to look at the major difference between the rugby league and union, it's predominantly where the forwards are. So if you're looking at the rugby league forwards compared to the rugby union forwards, the differences in acceleration, distance, etc., would be quite different. So again, that would be the difference there. The backs, you're still hitting top speeds around 15 to 30 meters in terms of top speeds, acceleration. So they're the similarities of it. But with the team and individual sports, I think for an S&C, for me, working within the team sport, the actual management of it is a lot harder. You're obviously, for me, working as head of the academy with Bradford, I'm working with up to 50 athletes at the minute, which is obviously very difficult to really hone in as much individuality as I can.
Yeah.
Whereas with the individual athletes, if you are looking at tennis, as an example, tennis players, badminton, you can really have that individualized approach a lot more. Can you potentially manage their injury and the robustness a lot more? Yes. There are ways to do it with team sports, but the word's key in team, isn't it? You need a team of people around you. So I'm fortunate to have a lot of interns and a lot of the coaches to assist me and the medical staff to assist me. I'm much more part of a support network as opposed to just in those individualized sports.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with the word. You having a good team around you, and this is one thing that I notice a lot with the athletes that we work with on a daily basis. Is one of the biggest. I had an athlete come to. I've had 3 athletes come to us over the last couple of weeks from a football league academy, basically saying that. Or I've had a dad coming to me and saying, Chris, we've had our lad's come back and he's been told he's got to work on his running mechanics. And then my first question there is, well, what's wrong with his running mechanics? Is it the fact that it's not aesthetically pleasing on the eye? Is he having pain? Is he off balance? Why does he need running mechanics as anything else? Because when you and I know as coaches, it's so much more than just the running mechanics. It's all about the biomechanical makeup, how long they've been doing the sport, what position, what individual characteristics is it to that position, as you sort of alluded to earlier with the forwards and back scenario. What do you think we can do as coaches and educators to maybe overcome this myth that people need to be stronger, have better change of direction, get lower when they accel and decelerate, and think, and another elements of that, if that sort of makes sense, because there's a lot of athletes, especially the younger ones these days, that tend to get released from clubs or tend to get told that they're not good enough because they're not aesthetically pleasing on the eye in terms of how they perform. Because obviously the key thing is obviously having good technique, but if it's not causing them pain, why are we chasing it?
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think right at the start of that question, you responded. So you said, he needs to improve on his running mechanics. I think the best way we can, as coaches, first of all, ask that question, why? Is that a buzzword you just come across? Running mechanics, it's a buzzword. They don't actually know. A lot of the people won't understand what we mean by the hip flexion, the hip extension, what's happening to the lateral stability. They don't understand. And I think you highlighted it. It's because it looks, it won't look aesthetically pleasing. So they think he has to fix his running style. So I think one of the biggest things for me in terms of improving, let's say someone's changing their direction, their agility, and I always think it's in Kelly Starrett's book, The Supple Leopard.
Great book.
I always think we look at move, especially with youth development. My key principle is that we move well and we move often. Now, moving well is very, very broad, very, very broad. How person A, athlete A, will move in running, accelerating, decelerating, could be very, very different to person B. And that could be due to height, could be due to weight. If we wanted to get into the technical elements of things, we need to have a look at our youth athletes of, well, are they pre-peak height velocity? Are they post-peak height velocity? Have they finished growing? Can they control their own body? So where we need to be as educators and coaches is it's the battle between context and content, isn't it? People are just looking at the content and think, oh, well, he doesn't look like he can run properly because of whatever, ABC, his knees are slightly caving in or whatever. But the context could be that, well, actually, he's actually going through his peak height velocity. He's growing at a substantial rate where he's struggling to deal with his coordination, struggling to deal with his stability and mobility. And that's the context around it. But as long as coaches can really try and enforce the key principle of move well for your own body and anatomy, and if we can get you doing that often, then that's going to massively translate to or transfer to good athletic development.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I suppose an element of testing, I suppose, is working within the team sports, especially at Bradford. There's a lot of testing that goes on within the team sports, which I guess is a way of overcoming, well, not overcoming, but I suppose identifying individual traits, isn't it, between individual players in terms of elements where they need to develop, but at the same time, not singling that player out and saying, right, you need to improve your 20-meter sprint by 0.3 seconds, for example. Whereas you could just incorporate that really into a forwards and back. I don't know if you still do this now. When I was at Bradford last year, one thing we used to do is would break it off. I think it was backs, middles, and forwards. And then what we'd do is they'd all come in and they'd do like shuttle runs. So they'd do I think it was like 8 shuttle runs over 20 meters, 2 minutes recovery. And then what we would then do is we'd then assess who was at the top, who was at the middle, who needed the additional boost, if you like, and then sort of compared it between the positions, and then obviously from that side liaise with the technical coaches and see how, as a collective unit, we could then develop them as individuals.
Yeah, and this is the thing where it is so difficult in a team environment to really get that individuality element of it. So if the way you still do something fairly similar, but in terms of maybe sprint times or even just the anaerobic capacity as an example, I use an app which is pretty good called Speed Grid.
Right, okay.
So ultimately how that works is I have to get a linear mass score first. So we usually at Bradford we'll run like a Bronco, and we'll find whatever the times are. I'll work out the maximal aerobic speed, and then I will differentiate into 3 groups. At the moment, it doesn't really matter whether it's forwards, backs, whatever. It's going on their basic maximal aerobic speed, and then basically this app, we put it on a speaker. I can set out certain distances, working at 80% mass, 100% mass, 120% mass, and it challenges them all, because what I've made the mistake of doing before is having everyone do 20-meter shuttles, having everyone do 40-meter shuttles, and you've got 30% of the group who find it really easy, and it's not challenging whatsoever, and I've got 30% of the group who are really, really struggling to actually get to that 20-meter and back in the time allocated. So the differentiation there, and I think that's where technology does work massively, but that's the difficult bit of the team sports, trying to cater for every individual need, and as you highlighted, even with the things like running technique, and someone might have not great dorsiflexion, or someone might not have great thoracic extension. That's so difficult to individualize in a team environment.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I suppose a lot of it and how the individual progresses is, again, we come back to the word of having the right team around you, and what do they do outside the box? Because we see it a lot more on social media nowadays, that which is what I suppose is like where I am with my business and a few other people are with theirs, is working with athletes on a one-to-one basis, because you look at like the Cristiano Ronaldos, you look at the likes of Jordan Lilly, who's got his own facility in Bradford, you look at Ibrahimovic, they've all invested not just money but their time and enthusiasm into becoming the best person, and they've identified or they've already communicated with the coaches like yourself and myself and the technical coaches, said like, coach, what do I need to take my performance to the next level? Right, okay, well we'll go back to the running mechanics. Right, you need to improve running mechanics. Right, where's and the first thing that happens especially with one of the athletes I'm working with now, is where's the local athletics club? So they'll then go to the athletics club on a Monday night, for example, and they'll do athletics training. But the issue we've then got is we've looked at the quick fix. We've thought, right, we need to improve running mechanics. So straight away we're thinking of athletics. So let's get them stuck in there. But then what doesn't happen, I find, Martin, and I don't know if you agree or not, is the due diligence side of things. Is people don't look into the credibility of the coach, what exactly is going to happen within the sessions. Because let's face it, with any other sports, so whether it be a rugby team or a football team, if they go into an athletics environment, realistically they're going to be training for their 4x 100 meter sprints and the competitions and everything going forward. So they're not necessarily going to be looking at the things like your pogos, things like your alternating switches. It's a tricky, it's a hard one. So I think having your network around you and doing your research is obviously a key element of again developing the athlete, isn't it? Really, whether you're a parent, a coach, and I suppose educating yourself to know where these people are, so that you can provide a pathway. Because it's great as I've given advice out plenty of times before and said, right, you need to improve on, you need to improve your shoulder mobility, for example, so go and see a physio. But then they don't, but without even thinking about what is a physio's job. And I think this is one of the biggest problems, and people don't understand people's roles. And again, having the right team, having a network around you is obviously what makes a big difference, I think.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of network. As in this game, strength and conditioning, personal training, I suppose it doesn't really matter. You've got to have a good support network of people around you. So just bringing it back to, and I suppose I like to class it as a good coach should be someone who steals from everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to grab knowledge literally from any place I can. So I'll grab knowledge off you. I'll grab knowledge off Tom, for instance, the coaches I'm working at Bradford. I'm always looking. So I'm just enrolled onto my masters in September, St Mary's Twickenham. So again, just going to try and encompass and grab as much information as I can from that. And it is just having that network, because I will, I'm quite comfortable to sit here and say I am not an expert running coach. I'm not someone who's fully clued up with running mechanics. I can coach someone a little bit around how it needs to look in terms of acceleration, and I know the methods in terms of improving someone's acceleration and speed, but the actual intricacies of what degree of hip flexion do we need to get to, how does the triple extension need to look, what angle of the torso, there are much better coaches out there who can do that as opposed to me. But if I build that network, as an example, Tom, as an example, is very, very good on all things plyometrics and speed work. I would definitely reach out to him either for some help, or I'd just get the sessions for me and get some of the coaching sessions. And ultimately, you're just trying to do the best by your athletes. And if that's to get a more enhanced coach in there and deliver it, then that's what's needed.
No, I totally agree. I think that's the best. I think it's always good to have more than one voice, isn't it, as well? Because it's not only is it another voice for the athlete, it sort of reassures yourself and reassures the athlete that the information that they are being given, or the route, the ethos that's being followed, is actually correct. Because it's very easy to trust people when it. But because people are always getting let down, we see it a lot, whether it's from a personal training element, or even within a managerial, taking it out of context now, going into managerial positions. If a team's not performing or an individual's not performing, the first thing that's going to happen is they're going to sack the coach. But is it really the coach that's the problem? Is it their support staff? Have they not had the support? Have they not been listened to? Because it's a bit of it's a tricky.
I think one. I also think as much of this is I absolutely love job. I can sit and thought things all I can see all day long, but I think that's also one of the negative sides of things, and that's one of the risks we take as well. You are the face of, for instance, I am the face of the physical capabilities, the strength and conditioning at Bradford Academy.
Yeah.
Now, regardless of what I design, what I develop, what I implement, it's not going to work for everyone. There's going to be elements. Some people will get amazing results. Some people are going to do all right, and some people are probably not going to do great for it. And it's ultimately you are the face of that. So I think that's one of the downfalls, is that you do have to have that little bit of resilience as a coach as well. And at times you're just going to have to sit with discomfort a little bit, because it's not always going to be praised. It's not always going to be praised.
No, this is it. I think a lot of people, Martin, as well, they get mistaken for the badge, don't they? People look at you wearing a Bradford Bulls badge, and they think that you know everything that's going on in the club. They think that you can tell them the latest transfer. You can tell them how Joey Williams is performing every weekend. But realistically, it's not always. It shouldn't be the badge that matters. It's the individual behind the badge, because there's too much emphasis, in my opinion, and certainly in a few of the other people that I've spoken to previously, is there's too much emphasis on the badge and not on the individual. And I think people think that by becoming a professional athlete or an elite athlete is the be all end all. But again, it so what if you don't make it as a professional? Are you playing to the best of your capabilities? And as an athlete, are you developing in your mental mindset? Are you progressing with less pain, reduce, improve mobility, increase range of movement?
Yeah.
And I think that really should be the most important thing, because you look at athletes that go on trial, for example, and then get released. They then don't really have that network of support around them, do they? And we see it more and more within elite sport, especially nowadays, that once they've been released, there's no real option for what they can do. And again, it comes back down to network. So I guess if anything, what people need to take out of this podcast today is get yourself a flaming good network of people that you can trust, and you can, and that you for a fact that you can learn off, be inspired off, and get rid of the negativities as well, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, you do. So it's not for everyone. You do have to put yourself out there to build the network, a bit like we are on here now. And now you're going to get on with everyone. No, but that's just life in general. And it's just building that positive network, as you mentioned. And it's the same in terms of team sports. So we try it really, with our 18s, our 16s, our 15s. It's each coach will have their own way in terms of building their own positive team environment as well. There's so many different ways you can do that. I've had coaches tell me before that I shouldn't be playing music when I've had youth athletes in there, because we should be focusing on more coaching as opposed to the music. And I rather than just jump down the throat and that kind of stuff, I kind of took a step back and thought, well, yeah, just because the music's playing, it doesn't mean I'm not coaching. Could I turn the volume down a little bit? Yeah. But then you've also got to look at the lads. Now, the 15s and 16s there, I don't really play music because they never ask for it. They never seem bothered, and they're quite happy doing what they're doing. 18s continually ask for it. And if anything, with a certain track or certain genre of music, if it helps them harness the benefits of the music into their resistance training performance, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, totally. It's having that network.
So it's just differentiating between your team. How do you build a positive team environment? And that could be something as simple as music. It could be something as simple as doing monthly socials. It could be something as simple as making sure you're doing continuous reviews with players. There's so many different things.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, because the environment is key. And again, it's how individuals, obviously, like we said, it's how individuals react to each one. Some coaches may have certain temperaments which could potentially strike a bit of fear into these athletes, which might be a case of like, well, I'm only going to perform because I know if I don't perform, I'm going to get it told off or what have you. Whereas other people might be a little. I suppose it's, again, coming to the network, having the trust element as well is, what environment, what do you bring to the table as an athlete and as a coach, and also how does the individual benefit? How do they react to you and the environment you're in, isn't it? Because obviously, having been able to progress, you've got to have that trust. You've got to have the right environment. You've got to feel comfortable, haven't you? Because whether you go into a pure gym or you go into a private gym, there's obviously going to be a difference in terms of how you're going to perform. Because if you go to a pure gym, for example, I don't know about you, but I'm always looking over my shoulder on the deadlift platform every 2 minutes, because I know for a fact someone's going to be wanting to get on the platform. Whereas I go to a private gym, I can spend an hour and a half on the platform without having to worry about it. So perform better because of the environment.
That's it. It's massive. It is huge. And I do simple things in terms of our team athletes. I'm quite loud. I'm quite in the athletes' faces quite a lot of the time, and a majority of them like it. I know some who are a little bit quieter, but then that's me. I have to differentiate my coaching role. Again, the one size fits all approach is an approach that fits no one. So I know with some of the quieter lads, I do sort of pull them to one side, just check they've got everything. I can have a little quieter chat with them as opposed to in the big group. But one thing I find, especially with rugby team environments, is often, in the sessions I get involved with them. I am coaching, I'm participating with them as well. If we've got a bit of a prowler run, bit of a prowler challenge, I'll give the challenge a go. I'll set a time mark, and then everyone tries to beat that mark and stuff. And the lads seem to love it. And that's not to say that works for every team. It just works for a couple.
Well, this is it. There's always that satisfaction from an athlete when they get to beat the coach. And I suppose, and I guess a lot of it is because, again, goes back to the trust and binding into the coach's philosophy, and also because as a coach, obviously, one of the main things we want to do is motivate and inspire.
That's it.
And if that's a way of doing it, brilliant. Because I guess if we're not motivating, or we're not the athlete's role model, then my question there is, why the hell are we in that position? Do you know what I mean? Because if that athlete's not looking up to us, or they're not drawing inspiration from us, why are they with us? And I guess that comes down to, again, knowing what each individual can bring to the table for the son or daughter, if the parents listening, or to the individual athlete themselves, whether they're 14, 15, 18, 19, or a season pro.
Yeah, I think with that, it definitely ties into us as coaches just adopting the three basic rules of evidence-based practice, really. So if you're having a look at evidence-based practice, one, yes, we have to sit and get our heads in books and capture a lot of the theory and the knowledge around it. But also, in terms of our practice, we've got to have our own professional experience of that. And then also we've got to look at our athlete preference as well. What do they enjoy doing? So the three things are, as coaches, we need to actually have the fundamental knowledge on whatever it is we're teaching or coaching. We've got to have professional experience within that.
Yeah.
And then we've also got to understand our athletes' sort of preferences. So is an SSC coach from Lithenway who does a lot of work with pole vaulters. So we've sat down, we've had loads of conversations about it. We've done in terms of the evidence-based practice around the knowledge, and a lot of reading around sprint mechanics and the vertical jump and the vertical ground reaction forces and all this kind of stuff. But I don't have professional experience in that. So coaching those type of athletes, I think I'd struggle to get that relationship with them because I haven't got that professional experience within them. As opposed to more, I must admit, I'm very much, I do a little bit of work with amateur strongmen in a one-to-one capacity, but I'm very much a team S&C coach.
Yeah.
Whether that would be football, rugby, handball, that's a lot where my professional experience lies at the moment.
Yeah, and it's not a bad thing, is it? It's always good. It's always good to get an insight into doing a little bit with work with strongmen or work with a couple of individuals. But you've got to know what you're passionate about, haven't you? Because it's one thing understanding and knowing about different sports and what have you, but you've got to, as a coach or even as an athlete, you've got to know what you want, haven't you? You've got to know what you want, what your individual targets are, and what you want to achieve from the long-term goal. And if yours is to build a better teamwork and environment, then that's what you've got to focus on, and that's the type of athlete you're going to want to attract, I guess.
Yeah, and that comes in with the I suppose, similar to you, the demographic we're working with in terms of the youth athletes. I love seeing them progress week on week, month on month, year on year, and just taking them from, if you wanted to have a look at the simple LTAD model, taking them from very fundamental basics into actually either training to compete or training to win. It's a very satisfying job when you get to those moments.
Yeah, key point there. Fundamental. Obviously, it is. You've got to have the professionalism. You've got to have the structure, but it has got to be fun, because I think sometimes the best sessions are the ones that just look like there is no structure to them, especially in a team environment.
I've seen a lot of your stuff you put out in terms of your warm-ups. Your warm-ups in there, you hit the key principles in terms of the raise and the activate and the mobilize and all that kind of stuff. But again, the lads are having a laugh, bit of a giggle, getting the heart rates up. It's, the warm-up is one of the best places to do that, to really incorporate the fundamental element.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And I guess it's the education side of it as well, isn't it? Obviously, you do an education, providing education for other learners and everything like that. And when you're coaching, you've always got to get the feedback and get the athletes thinking. What elements did you take from that warm up? What are you doing? I'm lunging. I'm activating my muscles. I'm keeping good upright posture. My balance is, and you're getting an automatic. And they might think that they're playing throw and catch or stuck in the mud or lunge tig, things like that. But what they're actually doing is, like you say, doing they are getting that proper ramp warm up and mobilizing potential and everything like that. So just briefly, just want to talk a little bit about sort of like the educational side of things that you're doing, and who is it you're working with on them, and sort of how could athletes benefit from that, whether they're just starting a career as a amateur or elite athlete, or coming towards the end of their career, and and what benefits would they get from it?
So massively. We kind of mentioned a bit earlier in the podcast, didn't we, that when an athlete leaves, they might have not been signed, or they just might not want to play the sport anymore. Other part of my job is health and fitness tutor for various companies in terms of teaching our level 2 fitness instructor qualifications, level 3 personal training qualifications, and level 4 strength and conditioning qualifications, really. And they give you a kind of kickstart into the fitness industry. And the level 2 is based very much around how you work as an instructor within a gym and how to use the kit. That's to them, which again, people come to these fitness instructor courses and think it's going to be all very simple. But what you find now is that people don't understand how to use a lot of kit that's in commercial gyms. You might see it yourself, if you train at a big commercial gym, you don't know how to perform basic fundamental movements on resistance machines, on free weights, on just general body weight movement. So that's what our level 2 is about, just teaching you on the very basics of movement and how to use a lot of commercial kit that you find in gyms. Level 3 just adapts a little bit more, progresses into starting a career as a personal trainer, whether that's employed, self-employed. The course goes through everything in terms of working with an individual client who either wants to lose weight, hypertrophy, strength, and how we can design and develop plans for that. And then the level 4 is really niche then. So I think the level 3 gives you a good broad bit of knowledge. It gives you a little bit of physical training, gives you a little bit on nutrition, it gives you a little bit on interpersonal skills. But then for me, I think after a couple of years, you really want to try and find your niche. And, for me and you, that's been strength and conditioning, where the level 4 S&C takes you through all methods and principles of how to improve an athlete's performance and make them more robust and reduce the chances of injury, really.
No, I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great tool for any athlete to have, because obviously they can never stop learning, and I think it's really key. And a couple of the athletes I'm working with at the minute are actually studying. I think it's like sports exercise at BTEC level, I think it is, and it's, as a coach, it's great to be able to have the conversations with these athletes and make them understand a little bit more about what they're doing, because it's not only going to help them in the training, but it's also going to help them with their education as well, because you can sort of talk to them a bit more anatomically, so to speak, as opposed to talking about hip flexion, hip extension. We can actually talk a little bit more about the muscle groups it's going to target, and look at the neural pathways and things like that. So obviously having that. So if you are studying and having one-to-one coaching, I think it's a great tool to sort of have side by side, isn't it? Really, on that.
Yeah, and I think if you look at us as coaches, we are ultimately educators for our athletes.
Yeah,
and that's how we need to be viewed, and that's how we need to view our role. If you look at Tom's ethos at Your Gym Sports Performance, an education provider that educates. That's what we are as coaches, aren't we? We are coaches to educate. In terms of the youth athlete development, we're obviously always looking to improve their performance in their chosen sport, or just in life in general, and then reduce the chances of those athletes getting injured. So we 100% are educators as coaches.
No, that's absolutely perfect. But Martin, it's been absolutely fantastic having a conversation today, and I really appreciate your time, because I know obviously you're a really busy man. So thank you very much for coming on, buddy. But for anyone that wants to get involved with any of your courses, or they want to find out a bit more about you, where can they find you?
So best thing really, I use Facebook a little bit and that kind of stuff, but the best thing to do is just pop me an email really, which is just martin.hamer@bradfordbulls.co.uk. And anything, along those lines, if you're interested in the course, interested in just taking a step into a fitness career, it doesn't necessarily have to be a course that I teach. I can tell you the best steps to get involved within the fitness industry, or if it's wanting to start out as an S&C coach, there's so many different courses out there, level 4 S&C courses, UKSCA strength and conditioning coach diploma. There's loads of different elements to that. So if someone does want to reach out, that email's best really. That's where I'll get back to you, and we can either jump on a Zoom call and have a chat about it.
Sounds absolutely perfect. Well, guys, obviously take advantage of that. It's not every day you're going to have the opportunity to reach out and get as much knowledge as you can from Martin. So yeah, definitely. We'll put the link in the email address in the link in the comment section. But yeah, again, Martin, thanks very much. All the best for the rest of the season for the new season with Bulls. I suppose
the new season
now, isn't it?
Yeah, we're well in the mix for pre-season, so we're hoping, restrictions dependent, we're going to be starting around March. So looking forward to it.
That sounds good. Well, that's brilliant. We'll be keeping an eye on the results, and thanks very much for your time. We'll catch up soon.
Cheers. Thank you very much, mate.